Press freedom in Hong Kong has come under severe pressure since the enactment of the Beijing-imposed National Security Law last year. This June, the closure of Apple Daily became the final nail in the coffin. Now, with pro-democracy politicians in the city being arrested or resigning en masse, many wonder if there will ever again be voices of opposition in Hong Kong. Join us tonight as we look at the events that led to the final print edition of Apple Daily on June 23rd and talk to those who look to the future in the city shrouded in darkness. Here's our Sunday special report.
On June 23, 2021, Hong Kong tabloid Apple Daily announced that the next day's paper would be its last. In the afternoon following the announcement, readers of the paper braved heavy rain to stand outside the company's building and give staff sunflowers as a show of support. By the evening, more people had arrived outside the Apple Daily building. They shouted slogans and urged the paper to press on. The cheering seemed endless, and inside the building, reporters toiled at their stations to the end, painstakingly preparing the paper's last edition. The front page headline was a solemn farewell to the people of Hong Kong. On its last day, Apple Daily printed 10 times its usual run, 10 million copies for a city of 7 million people. The paper wasn't delivered until late into the night. Huge lines of people formed in front of newsstands, stretching from one block to the next.
This is the Hong Kong people's last newspaper. Even in 50 or 100 years from now, there won't be another paper for Hong Kong's people as this one was.
Freedom of speech had become restricted. Many of the city's residents feel this pressure. However, for those working at Apple Daily, this pressure and fear is definitely 1,000 times, even 10,000 times what we feel. Just thinking about it distresses me greatly.
Next Digital occupies an important space in Hong Kong's media. Yet in just a few short months, the Hong Kong government was able to tear down this media giant of 26 years.
全國人大會議閉幕，表決通過授權人大常委會制定港區國安法，涵蓋嚴重危害國安嘅行為同活動。
On June 30, 2020, China's National Security Law for Hong Kong was formally enacted. The new law took aim at behavior seen by Beijing as subversion of state power, Hong Kong separatist activity, terror acts, and collusion with foreign powers. Unlike other laws in Hong Kong, national security law cases can only be presided over by judges selected by the city's chief executive. The highest penalty for violating the law is life imprisonment, and suspects may be tried in Chinese courts.
简单讲就是行政长官林郑月娥可以指定法官。
Simply put, Hong Kong Chief Executive Carrie Lam can appoint a judge to establish a trial in cases involving the national security law. In any normal democratic country, this would be considered unreasonable. But in drafting the national security law, the Chinese Communist Party intentionally designed it this way. Empowering the chief executive to directly set up a trial essentially means that there is no separation between the judiciary and the administration. There is no way to have an independent judiciary.
Just over a month after the national security law was enacted, the Hong Kong government set its sights on the press. On August 10, 2020, the offices of Next Digital were raided, and high-level staff members, including Next Digital founder Jimmy Lai, were arrested. The suspects were charged with collusion with foreign powers. Then, on June 17, 2021, another 500 police officers descended upon Apple Daily. They confiscated reporters' computers and arrested executives Royston Chow and Chung Kim-hung. Shortly after that, the police froze the assets of 3 companies under the umbrella of Next Digital and ordered banks not to handle transactions for Next Digital. Business partners that wanted to provide funds were unable to make a deposit, leaving the company in desperate straits. On the morning of June 23rd, the company announced that top Apple Daily columnist Young Chin-ki was arrested. That was the last nail in the coffin for Apple Daily.
Why did they shut down so abruptly? It was because the chief editor wasn't part of the company's management. He wasn't one of the chairpersons. So they felt that if things continued that way, the police activity would continue and many more people would be arrested.
Based on our understanding, some of the Apple Daily reporters have fled Hong Kong to protect themselves and their families. There are also others in the process of leaving the city for new homes elsewhere. Those reporters who have stayed behind to carry on their work have begun to worry about their ability to do objective reporting. They are unsure when the time for their own arrest will come.
You just don't know where the red line is. You guys from Taiwan are foreign press, and whether there will be problems that arise from talking with foreign press, I really don't know. If the day arrives when police show up at my door saying I violated the national security law and arrest me, only then will I know there was a problem.
Hong Kong Journalists Association Chairman Ronson Chan makes it clear that even in being interviewed by foreign press, he is filled with worry. Nevertheless, for the sake of press freedom, he is unwilling to remain silent.
Nobody comments on how these actions by police impact press freedom, freedom of speech, or the development of the media in Hong Kong. It's very rarely discussed. So, as a chairman of the Journalists Association, I can't not accept an interview. I must speak up. If I don't speak up, nobody will.
Following the death of Apple Daily, the CCP's 100th anniversary was marked on July 1st by the near identical front pages of every Hong Kong newspaper.
就是你看到报摊上看到所有的报纸。
You look at the newsstand and all the front page of all the papers is the same. All of it is ads from the Hong Kong and Beijing governments, images that promote the CCP's 100th anniversary.
Freedom of the press in Hong Kong no longer exists. In the Reporters Without Borders' most recent Press Freedom Index ranking 180 countries and regions, Hong Kong fell from 18th place in 2002 to 80th place in 2021.
你可以看到香港的过往的一些媒体哦。
You can look at Hong Kong's media in the past. For example, there were some news agencies that took a more neutral and objective stance in their writing. However, now all of them are controlled by the CCP's propaganda wing. Put simply, any Hong Kong news outlet that remains unruly toward the CCP is forced to shut down.
Once one of the freest and most vibrant cities in the world, Hong Kong is now slipping bit by bit into the darkness.
香港现在的情况是，告密是一个很大的风潮。
The current trend in Hong Kong is for people to inform against each other. You might be on a public bus watching videos on your phone. For example, you might be watching FTV on YouTube, and next to you another passenger sees you watching this so-called reactionary content. They can take a picture of you and inform authorities. There is a hotline that they can call to inform on you.
The National Security Department of the Hong Kong Police Force has established a hotline for reporting national security offenses. In the 6 months since the hotline was established, it has received 100,000 reports. Some people who simply displayed stickers on their doors with protest messages like "Liberate Hong Kong, Revolution of Our Times" were reported by their neighbors and arrested. The situation is reminiscent of Taiwan's White Terror.
它其实就是让香港我们所谓的内地化了。
What Beijing is trying to do is make Hong Kong like the mainland, to erase traces of the one country, two systems framework. By making Hong Kong like the mainland, they are accelerating the integration of Greater China, so that the whole thing comes under the rubric of the one-party state.
Under the oppressive nationalism of the CCP, Apple Daily was forced to close up shop. The annual July 1st human rights marches were also forcibly brought to an end. Some wonder if it's also the end of Hong Kong's silent pro-democracy camp.
中共以为用土堆埋掉了一颗苹果，但他却忘记他是埋掉了一堆果子。
The CCP wants to bury an apple, but forgets that it's also burying seeds. These seeds will take root in the soil and grow. In their place will be unimaginable growth filling the land and rising into the sky. All throughout the mountains and valleys will be apple trees.
The future of Hong Kong is unclear, but after the battles of resistance that have been fought there, the voices of freedom cannot be silenced. One day, the resistance will gain strength and overturn the suppression of authoritarianism.